Good morning, everybody. How's it going? It's Alfred Parsard Jr. back with the Metropolitan report. And before we begin this report, uh, I'm sorry that I'm in a tank top here. My hair is messed up, but I just woke up, ate a small breakfast, and now I'm about to bring you this live edition of the Metropolitan report. Go down below to the socials. Follow us on Instagram, the_Metropolitan_report. Follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, Mets_report_pod. Right here on YouTube, the Metropolitan Report podcast. Of course, go support my friends at the Grid Network and follow us on Facebook at the Metropolitan Report podcast page. And of course, for those of you who are personal friends of mine on Facebook, we're all here and locked in. And big week here, not just with the Mets, Major League Baseball, all the teams, the franchise. It's the winter meetings. Winter meetings started this past Sunday. Today's now Wednesday. It is Wednesday, December 10th. They're being held in Orlando, Florida. And boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, I'm not happy. Not happy at all. I mean, there's a big name free agents on the market. Some guys who had contracts expire, some guys who opted out. And we already know of two Mets that opted out of their contracts, Pete Alonso being one who we're going to talk about later, and Edwin Diaz, the Mets closer, Sugar, as we affectionately have known him. Yesterday, the big news, breaking news, Edwin Diaz signed with the Los Angeles Dodgers on a deal that was 3 years for $69 million. Of course, the Los Angeles Dodgers, they are a team that's not afraid to spend money. There is a reason that the Los Angeles Dodgers have won back-to-back World Series this year and last year. They spend money. They went out, they got Shohei Ohtani, big money contract, deferred most of the money. Ohtani was smart to let them do that. And they go out and they get good players. They go out and they get Teoscar Hernandez prior to last season. They go to Japan, they get Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who was really lights out in 2025 compared to his rookie season in 24, although he was still a World Series champion in 24. They went ahead and got Tanner Scott last season. So, the Dodgers, they are not afraid to spend. They don't care. On the other hand, though, we have the richest owner in baseball, Steve Cohen. And we're going to touch on Uncle Stevie in a second, but David Stearns, this general manager, and you guys that watch this program and who have been watching this program for many months now, going back all the way to last season, and the videos are on YouTube. I've never taken them down. I have called for David Stearns' job since the very beginning. I didn't like the hire. I didn't like the move. Some people said, well, he did well in Milwaukee. Yes, Milwaukee is a small market team. You have budget restrictions in a market like Milwaukee. But people will point at 2024 and say, oh my God. And we got to the NLCS. All right. It was a fluke season, as we proved last year, because David Stearns has a reputation for two things. One of them is good. He can build a farm system. I'm not denying that. David Stearns can develop a great farm system. We saw it in Milwaukee. But this ain't Milwaukee. This is the New York Mets. This is New York City. Big market. And while, yes, the Mets have a great farm system, you look at all the prospects and young talent that Stearns has gotten since he's been here. Luis Angel Acuna, Brandon Sproat, Nolan McLean, Jonah Tong, Carson Benj, just to name a few. But then you look at the one thing that David Stearns is notoriously known for, and it's not a good thing. He does not like to spend money. What David Stearns likes to do, he likes to go bargain bin shopping. What I mean by that, try to get fringe players. And I've said this many times on this program over the course of the last year. David Stearns loves to go and get guys who are reclamation projects or guys who were once big name prospects and fizzled out, guys who are journeymen, guys who are borderline major league caliber players. And his idea is, well, if they work out, great. We got a great result for no money. And if they don't work out, well, we didn't spend much money on them to begin with, so it's not a bad investment. And you cannot approach building a winning team that way. And they say, well, Alfred, what do you mean by that? What do you mean, Alfred, by your criticism of Stearns? Look at the guys that played for the Mets in 2025. I can go ahead and name them. Frankie Montas, who I don't know. Well, actually, no, he spent a little bit of money on Montas. Montas's AAV was $17 million, so not Montas. But the Griffin Cannings of the world, albeit he had a great first half till he got hurt. The Sean Manayas, the Tyrone Taylors, Huascar Brazabon, Reed Garrett, Richard Lovelady. What are we doing here? What are we doing? Juan Soto came here for this? I don't think he came here for this. It's like I'm almost speechless at how inept David Stearns actually is at his job. It's amazing to me. It's really amazing to me. I fail. I fail to understand. I fail to understand how you can field a roster of guys like a Jared Young, another journeyman. Jared Young journeyed so far, he ended up in the KBO and came back to the majors. It doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't. This Mets team should have made the playoffs this season, but they didn't. Missed the playoffs by one game. It shouldn't even have came to that. Oh, let's not forget the Jose Castillos of the world that David Stearns brought on this roster to be in the bullpen. Tyler Zuber. It just doesn't make any sense. The Ty Adcocks of the world. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, where are you finding these people? But then the winter meetings comes and, Edwin Diaz opted out. Pete Alonso opted out. There are big name free agents, the Kyle Schwarbers, the Cody Bellingers of the world, the Ranger Suarez's, the Michael Kings, whatever. I'm hoping to hear some news that the Mets actually did something and Stearns spent the money. And then the news breaks that Edwin Diaz goes to the Dodgers. Now, the initial reports were Diaz wanted a 5-year deal. Then he wanted a 4-year deal. From the Mets, he wanted to stay. Now, as we covered in our Metropolitan report video last week, okay, David Stearns goes back to what he knows. Goes back to his Milwaukee days. Gets Devin Williams 3 years, $51 million. And I vividly remember, and the video is still up, I called that move a contingency move. I said, if Edwin Diaz comes back, great move. Devin Williams can be a setup guy. If Edwin Diaz goes elsewhere, bad move. And that was a move that prepared for Edwin Diaz not to come back. And what do you know? Edwin Diaz doesn't come back. And David Stearns is probably sitting in his hotel room right now in Orlando, or probably at some table in the conference room with the other GMs and executives in Major League Baseball. And he's probably thinking to himself, well, you know, the Dodgers gave Diaz 3 for $69. I got Devin Williams. I got my guy that I developed. 3 years for $51. I saved $18 million. I didn't spend the money. Well, yeah, David, you didn't spend the money. The Mets reportedly, now this is what happened. According to what I have read, Jeff Passan from ESPN, MLB Insider, he has released a series of tweets that explain what led Edwin Diaz to sign with the Dodgers. Number one, Edwin's brother, Alexis, pitched for the Dodgers last season. Currently still on their roster. They traded for him mid-season last season. He entered last year, Alexis did, as the Cincinnati Reds closer. Alexis Diaz, good pitcher. Not as electric as his brother Sugar, but Alexis Diaz is still good. And Alexis ranted and raved about how the Dodgers organization treated him. Edwin also wanted to go play, had a chance to play with his brother, who he's also going to participate in the World Baseball Classic in a few months with. They're both going to be on Team Puerto Rico. More on that in the future. Number two, Edwin Diaz was reportedly upset that he did not get a phone call informing him of the team's plans to sign Devin Williams. Now, again, why would Sugar be upset? Because Devin Williams has closed all of his career, minus his rookie year. When he was behind Josh Hader, he was a setup man, but he ended up displacing Josh Hader and taking his job. And at the time, the Brewers ended up trading Hader the very next season to the San Diego Padres due to the emergence of Devin Williams. I can understand why Sugar's upset, because you have a guy who's been a closer basically his whole career, and you want to keep Diaz, and Diaz is all he's done is close. So what type of message does that send? You want me? I've been your closer for the last 7 seasons, and you go and get another closer? How am I supposed to feel? The third thing that happened, David Stearns tried to play cute, and he thought that after the Dodgers offered Diaz the contract, that Diaz would come back to the bargaining table to say, oh, well, the Dodgers offered me this, what can you offer me? And that's not what happened. That is not what happened. You cannot play cute in these type of negotiations. Edwin Diaz, arguably, the best, if one of not the best closers in the game today. And when the Mets made the qualifying offer, what they should have done was offer him top dollar from the time they made the qualifying offer. But instead, Stearns wants to play cute, wants to try to save some money. And he goes and gives Edwin a horrid qualifying offer. Now, some people will say, well, the Mets, they offered 3 years, $66 million. Why, if Edwin really wanted to stay, he took a $3 million pay cut. But when you factor everything together, can you really blame Edwin for going to the Dodgers? Oh, and factor number 4, the team that just got him won the World Series 2 years in a row, this year and last year. Because they spend the money. But Stearns, the idiot, like I said, he's in Orlando thinking, oh, well, you know, they gave Sugar 3 for 69. I got my guy 3 for 51. I saved some money. Well, you know what, cheapo? Let's pull up the graphic. Here you go. Here is the comparison of last season. And look what we lost, and look what we gained, and the bullpen is not going to be better for it. 2025, let's go over it. Edwin Diaz win-loss record 6-3. Devin Williams 4-6. Edwin Diaz ERA is 1.63. A closer with a 1.63 ERA. Gee, don't you think you should have made him a better offer and kept him? Oh, yeah, his fastball velocity declined in 2025. But he had a 1.63 ERA, meaning he's not giving up runs. And you go and get a guy who was a closer in the same city across town and had a 4.79 ERA. 4.79. And that's the guy you want to go into the bottom of the ninth or the top of the ninth with the lead? It does not make sense. Make it make sense. It only makes sense in dollars. And in sports, you got to spend the money. Innings pitched, we're almost on par. Diaz, 66 and a third. Devin Williams, 62. Strikeouts almost on par, 98 for Diaz, 90 for Devo. Here's the most misleading stat. Diaz only blew 3 saves last season, 28 for 31. Devin Williams blew 4. He's 18 for 22. But Devin Williams entered the season last season as the Yankees closer. And when the season ended, it was Luke Weaver who was the closer. You saw the stats, folks. We're giving up a guy who had an ERA of 1.63. Remember, we didn't even give him up. He walked. But we let a guy with a 1.63 ERA as a closer in New York. We let him go for nothing. Why? Just why? Somebody, I need an answer. And David Stearns in the presser just deflected. He deflected. And then according to what he said, they're signing a Devin Williams affected how they approached Edwin Diaz. How does that make sense? How? The job of a general manager is to field the best roster possible with a chance to win. And David Stearns is not doing that. And I'm just supposed to sit here as a guy who covers the team and as a fan of the team, and I'm just supposed to be okay with it. And that's what David Stearns and Steve, and yes, you too, Steve Cohen, because you're just as complicit for allowing this moron that you hired to continue to destroy the organization. I understand Steve Cohen is a hands-off owner. I understand that he is smart enough to know that he is not smart enough to run the day-to-day operations of the team when it comes to roster construction. But at the same time, you have to get people who either A, know what they're doing, which I don't think Stearns does, or B, is not trying to sabotage the organization, which I think Stearns is doing. Maybe not intentionally, but he's doing it. Steve Cohen is a hedge fund billionaire. He's a businessman. How can you not see this as bad business? And you know what? When the offseason first started, they asked David Stearns, the media did, what is your goal this offseason? He said run prevention. Run prevention, yeah, run prevention. He's made a couple of moves for this bullpen this offseason so far. Yeah, you want to talk about run prevention? Well, I don't believe you. I don't believe that your goal is run prevention. You know why I don't believe you? Because these are the offseason bullpen moves that you've made this season. You want to talk about run prevention? Let's talk about it. He went ahead and he re-signed Richard Lovelady to a deal. What was Lovelady's ERA in 25? 8.49. Joey Gerber. He traded for Joey Gerber. Who the hell is Joey Gerber? I bet the average baseball fan, and even some guys who know baseball like myself, have never seen Joey Gerber throw a pitch. Joey Gerber. You know what? You want to talk about Joey Gerber? We'll talk about Joey Gerber right now. Joey Gerber with an ERA of 2.08 last season. Okay, all great. But he only played in 2 games last season. Joey Gerber has only played 2 seasons in Major League Baseball. A combined 19 appearances, 1-1 win-loss record, 3.60 ERA, only 20 big league innings, 10 strikeouts in those 20 innings. His first season in the majors was in 2020 with the Mariners, the COVID-shortened season 2020, and then he didn't play Major League Baseball for 5 years after that. He's played in 2020 in the COVID-shortened season. We all remember that. And then he didn't pitch again until last season. And this is a guy you go out and trade for? And Stearns traded cash to get this guy. Cash! Then he goes out and he gets Cooper Criswell. Cooper Criswell in 7 games with the Red Sox last season, 3.57 ERA. Oh, and this is the move that befuddles me. Carl Edwards Jr. Carl Edwards Jr. Carl Edwards Jr. Granted, yes, Carl Edwards won a ring. He won a World Series in 2016 with the Cubs. A decade ago. But last season, a 4.50 ERA. Carl Edwards Jr. And we've already gone over Devo's numbers. Carl Edwards. The guy preaches run prevention, and the best we do is Carl Edwards and Joey Gerber and Cooper Criswell. And you want to tell me that 2 guys with high ERAs and another kid who only pitched twice in 5 years, that's your run prevention? And then Richard Lovelady with an over 8 ERA, that's your run prevention? And you missed it by $3 million. You let the greatest closer in the history of this organization go. For $3 million, you couldn't match it. Or you couldn't give him an extra year and up the money. You couldn't go 3-75. You couldn't go 4-69. Or 4-79 or whatever number would make sense AAV-wise. I'm so goddamn mad. Sorry to curse. I never normally curse on this program, but David Stearns. Say what you will. Last season, everybody felt good. Last offseason, everybody felt good coming into this year. The Mets went out and got Juan Soto. They thought they were going to have a chance to take the division. Led the division for most of the year, or the first half of the year, and faltered so bad you missed the last wild card by a game. All the Mets had to do was just win the final game of the season, and they were in, and they couldn't do it. Run prevention. You know what? You know why the Mets missed the playoffs last season? Because the pitching fell apart. The starting pitching, with the exception of Nolan McLean and sometimes David Peterson, could not get to 5 innings, which is sad. The bullpen was no better. The man made 3 bullpen acquisitions at the deadline. Gregory Soto, Ryan Helsley, Tyler Rogers, and none of them were good. On paper, they were good. Then they got here and they played like trash. Run prevention. Run prevention. Joey Gerber, Cooper Criswell, and Carl Edwards Jr. and Richard Lovelady you're bringing back. That run prevention, right? Run prevention. You trade Brandon Nimmo for old man Marcus Semien because you want your infield defense to be better. All right, whatever. You still got to go get an outfielder. And I guarantee you, now that Kyle Schwarber has re-signed with the Phillies, I guarantee it, he will not go after Cody Bellinger and make him an offer. He will not go after Kyle Tucker. And only God knows if Pete Alonso is coming back, which now I heavily doubt. Because why the hell would Pete Alonso want to come back here when the man's gutting the heart and soul? He gut the heart and soul of the locker room in Nimmo, the clubhouse. He just took the air out of the bullpen, letting Sugar go to the Dodgers. This guy don't want to win. This guy doesn't want to be competitive. The Phillies, even if they make no moves, the rest of the offseason, they got Schwarber back, they'll be better than us. If the Braves could get healthy and stay healthy all year, they're better than us. Juan Soto, when it's time to opt out, you better go. You better go. We brought Juan Soto here for this? For this? Rebuild? For this? For a guy who stood behind the podium and said, my goal is run prevention. He looked the media in the eye and said, run prevention. I'm going to put it up back on the screen. Run prevention. That bullpen, this bullpen, that's run prevention? Is that run prevention? Somebody tell me if that's run prevention, because I see nothing. I see nothing but blown leads, blown saves, and less than mediocrity. But that's supposed to be run prevention. Matter of fact, that's supposed to be run prevention? That's supposed to be run prevention! You know, a couple of days ago, my good friend, founder of the Grid Network, host of the All Even podcast, Barry Grant Jr., who will be on the show in the near future, he told me, let it play out. And even he is now seeing what I've been seeing since day one. You cannot, and I've been getting slack. I've made so many videos about David Stearns and the horrible job he's been doing. You can't even count Juan Soto in his list of signings because that was Steve Cohen and his wife, Alex. That wasn't him. He didn't want Pete. We'll get to Pete Alonso in a second, but he didn't want Pete on this team last year. That was Steve Cohen. He tried to play cute with Edwin Diaz, and Edwin Diaz gave him the finger, and he's going to possibly the first team to three-peat in baseball in 25 years in the Los Angeles Dodgers. I guarantee you, if we would have just gave Edwin what he wanted, he would have stayed. And what he wanted wasn't out of the realm of reality. But Stearns, he played cute. He figured, oh yeah, Sugar, he'll come back to the table. His brother plays for that team. That team just won 2 World Series in a row. It's mind-boggling. This is a dark day for the Mets. I feel worse about Sugar leaving than I felt about DeGrom leaving after 2022. And let's not forget, does anybody remember 2023 when Edwin Diaz got injured celebrating Team Puerto Rico's win over the Dominican Republic in the World Baseball Classic that year. We had no Diaz that year, and we stunk. The last time this team had no Edwin Diaz, it was a horrible year. 2023 was a black eye. It was a black eye in this organization. And now, it's not like we're missing Sugar for a year. We're missing him for the rest of the franchise's history. So you keep that in mind. Anybody who thinks, oh, it's okay, it's going to be okay. When you think that us losing Edwin Diaz is not a big deal, just look at that. Just look at that graphic. Look at those names and look at those faces. And I'm not going to go over their stats again. You could go look it up. Maybe Devo bounces back, but I have no faith in the other four whatsoever. So you want to go ahead and say, oh, it's not that bad? Oh, I believe Stearns and his run prevention. Stearns doesn't even believe that this group can prevent runs from being scored or hold runners or keep games tied or keep leads intact or keep the Mets in the game if they're down by a run. Yeah, or some run prevention, all right. Other news. It broke Sunday night. Pete Alonso, traveling from his home in Tampa to Orlando. He drove to Orlando to go to the winter meetings. And he's going to meet with the Baltimore Orioles and the Boston Red Sox. David Stearns then went on to confirm on Monday night that there is no meeting between himself, the Mets, and Pete Alonso scheduled. He cited that, oh, Pete knows us. He's coming here to get familiar with the organizations he doesn't know so well. You know what that says? To me, that says, yeah, we're not really interested in negotiating with Pete right now. Stearns again, once again, playing cute. David Stearns playing cute once again. Now, for those of you who don't know the full story, I'm going to go recap. Pete Alonso, expiring contract at the end of 2024. Free agent. Hits the home run off of Devin Williams in the wild card round. And Milwaukee saves the season for the Mets to beat up on the Phillies in the NLDS, go to NLCS, lose to the Dodgers. Pete Alonso saved the season or extended it at least. Pete Alonso seeking a new contract. Admittedly, had a down year in 2024. The Mets let the negotiations go all the way until the end of January. Gave him a 2-year deal with an opt-out after the first year. Now, mind you, earlier in 24, in spring training of 24, Pete was offered a contract extension, didn't like the numbers. He and Scott Boras, his agent, were like, all right, we'll play the season out and take a chance on ourselves. Didn't exactly work. Got a 2-year deal. Steve Cohen made the deal happen, played hardball, and the Mets got their way. 2-year deal, $54 million, opt out after the first year. And then this is what Pete does this year. Career high, 272 average, 38 home runs, 126 RBIs, OPS of .871, an on-base percentage of 347. Career high in average. Second on the team in home runs, only behind Juan Soto. He was the team leader in RBIs, was Pete Alonso this year. By far the most productive hitter on the team this season. Now, a lot of his critics will say, well, you know, Pete's defense is no good. He should give up playing first base and be a DH. But I will sit here and tell you that Pete Alonso's bad defense Not saying he's the greatest defender in the world. He'll never win a Gold Glove more than likely. But his defense is not as bad as people are saying it is. But Pete Alonso's defense was not the reason that this team missed the playoffs. It was mainly the starting pitching in the bullpen and the bottom of the order not hitting when they needed to hit. Pete Alonso was not the issue. And Pete Alonso has this historic season. Played in all 162 games for the first time in his career. That shows durability. Made the All-Star team once again. Broke the franchise record for home runs with 264, finally surpassing Darryl Strawberry. You would think he's, and I've made videos about this in the past, you would have thought that that would have been enough to get a new contract from the Mets. Let's look at Pete Alonso's career resume. 7 seasons. 7 with the Metropolitans. He's played his whole career in Flushing. He's been an All-Star 5 times. Now, mind you, out of 7 seasons, being an All-Star 5 times is not great. I mean, well, it's great. Sorry, that is great. My mistake. I'm still angry over the Diaz situation. But being an All-Star 5 times out of 7 seasons, and technically there was no All-Star game in 2020, so he made the All-Star team 5 out of 6 possible times. 2019 Rookie of the Year. Led the majors in home runs that same season and made the All-MLB first team. He was a Silver Slugger this year. He won the Silver Slugger Award this year. Does that not mean anything? Was the National League RBI leader in 2022. And as I mentioned before, he is this franchise's all-time leader in home runs. And he played in all 162 games. Something Soto can't say, something Lindor can't say. Pete's the only position player that played all 162 this season. But yet, Stearns doesn't want to seem to commit to him. The reports say the Mets are not going to budge more than 3 years. And for a guy who just had an historic season, we'll put the numbers back up. Career high in average, 272. And you know what I say, 250 is the modern day 300. 38 home runs, 38 dingers, 126 RBIs. He's second on the team in home runs and first in RBI. Toe-to-toe with Pacheco, Juan Soto. OPS and on-base percentage look great to me. And you don't even want to take a meeting with the man at the winter meetings? You didn't take a meeting with Edwin Diaz, and he left. The Boston Red Sox, they made the playoffs last season. But they needed a first baseman all year last year with Tristan Casas hurt. And you know what they did? They asked Rafi Devers to move from third to first. He said no. They shipped him out of town. Everybody thought they were crazy. And they made the postseason after they shipped off their best player that was on their opening day roster, who was the face of the franchise. They need a first baseman bad because Tristan Casas, his injury history is very poor. Pete Alonso's in the market. Baltimore Orioles also in the market. They didn't have a solid everyday first baseman. They platooned first base last year. Pete would love it in Camden Yards. David Stearns playing cute again, won't even take a meeting with the man. But yet you'll go to the media, he's a great Met. Of course we want him back. But you don't want to give him more than 3 years. Why not 5? Why not 6? Pete wants 7. Why not meet him? Why not compromise? I'm sure Pete will take 6 years. Let him retire a Met. Front load the contract. That way, this is what I would do. Give him the 6 years. Front load the contract for the first 3 or 4 years. And then if he declines in the back end, you can release him and it wouldn't cost you next to anything because you've already paid him up front. You could do what the Dodgers did. I'm sure Pete would take deferred money, still be getting paid long after he's retired. Ken Griffey Jr. did it in Cincinnati. He just stopped getting paid last season. Or this season, rather, I should say. It would be criminal of David Stearns. Criminal. Yes, I'm going to say criminal. As a disrespect to every fan of this team and organization, if he does not re-sign Pete Alonso. He's already failed this winter because Sugar is gone. But if he loses Diaz and Alonso in one off season after trading Brandon Nimmo, he's gonna lose the fan base. I will be very surprised to see any game in Citi Field this season sold out. Because what reason do fans have to go? He traded a fan favorite in Brandon Nimmo. He let the fan favorite, who invented his bullpen entrance, by the way, while he was a Met. That was very marketable, by the way. You know how many? There were two, not one, but two Edwin Diaz trumpet bobbleheads through the years released. I have both. They let the closer that the fans love, the greatest closer this organization's ever seen. I don't want to hear about John Franco. I don't want to hear about K-Rod. I don't want to hear about Billy Wagner, even though he's in the Hall of Fame. They let the greatest closer this organization has ever seen, they let him go for nothing. Pete Alonso has stated he wants to stay a Met. The fans love Pete Alonso. He's a homegrown talent. And you won't even give the man a meeting to sit down and negotiate with. As much as I love Pete Alonso, he's done the intro for this show for years. But as much as I love Pete Alonso, if he leaves, I wouldn't even blame him. Because the disrespect that David Stearns is showing Pete Alonso this offseason, I wouldn't blame him if he went to the Red Sox, where the Red Sox are going to give him close to what he wants, if not what he wants. I would hate to see Pete go. Pete is my favorite player on the team, and he's been my favorite player since 2019. I didn't have to wait long until after David Wright retired to find a new Met to call my favorite. If I'm Pete Alonso, I look at that Edwin Diaz situation and I'm alarmed. For a team that struggled so much with pitching, and they let arguably the greatest closer, or one of the greatest closers in the sport today, go to the back-to-back defending champions, that says a lot. That you wouldn't want to retain a closer with a 1.73 ERA. It was an all-star this season, mind you. But it's just disrespectful. It's disrespectful that the man is driving to the winter meetings to sit down with other organizations to hear them out because you, David Stearns, don't really want him back in Flushing. It's no secret. David Stearns is not a Pete Alonso guy, or Pete Alonso is not a David Stearns guy. Because when there was a chance to give him a better deal last season, granted, all right, I get it. Pete had a down year in 24. But he had the year of a lifetime in 25. And that wasn't good enough to get a decent qualifying offer. He turned the qualifying offer down. Pete Alonso has been an example of what a great Met should be. And even in that down year in 24, he still made the All-Star game. So I don't get it. This guy, David Stearns, is a goof. Preaches run prevention and lets the greatest closer in the history of the organization, who just had a sub-2 ERA this season, and let him go. Some people will say, oh, Diaz left. Well, yeah, I'd leave too if the general manager of the team I wanted to play for, that I've been playing for from before he got there, started playing cute with me and expected me to come back to the table after I got an offer where I had family there already, where they ranted and raved about how they treat their players. And they've just won 2 consecutive World Series each of the last 2 seasons. And now I have a strong feeling Pete Alonso, I will be very surprised, very, very surprised if Pete Alonso comes back. And then look at the stats. We'll pull it up again. He led the team in RBIs. Where are we going to replace 126 RBIs? We traded Brandon Nimmo. He had 92 RBIs last season. If we let Pete walk, then that means we have gotten rid of 218 RBIs from last season. Do you know how asinine that is? And if you want to do the math, we can factor in, because Nimmo was traded for Marcus Semien. Semien had 62 RBIs, so the difference is 156. A 156 RBI differential you're going to let walk out the door. If Pete Alonso does not re-sign with the Mets, it's going to be a long couple of years of rebuilding, I'll tell you. And now there's rumors that the Mets want to trade David Peterson. David Peterson, who was an all-star for the first time last season. Generating interest. Now, the Mets need starting pitching as well. I would say behind McLean, Peterson should be your number 2. Or 3 if you want to put Holmes in the mix. Clay Holmes. Peterson's an expiring contract the end of this year. And David Stearns wants to shop David Peterson. It doesn't make any sense. Yes, Peterson's had some rough seasons, but he finally turned the corner last season. And they're open to dealing him, which makes no sense. No sense whatsoever. But we'll see if he gets traded. If it's not for Tarek Skubal, I don't want Peterson out of town. But the rumor is the Dodgers are trying to get Tarek Skubal, and all that's holding the trade up is Skubal's commitment to a long-term stint in Chavez Ravine. It's crazy to me. The Detroit Tigers have made it clear, and Tarek Skubal has also made it clear, that the sides are not going to reunite this season. He's going to get traded. He's an expiring contract. Detroit doesn't have the money to keep Tarek Skubal. And yet, the team with the richest owner in baseball, who needs starting pitching very badly, mind you, aren't even going to sniff his way with an offer, with a trade offer. Now, I said it, nobody could have predicted that Corbin Burns was going to tear his elbow out this season and get Tommy John. But he was the best starting pitcher on the market last winter, and Stearns never even sniffed his way and made him an offer. And you know what? There's the old saying that when people tell you who they are and show you who they are the first time, you're supposed to believe them. And you know what? I feel bad for a lot of fellow Met fans, because they looked at 2024 and they didn't see fluke. I looked at 2024 and I saw a fluke, as much as I hate to admit it. I saw lightning in a bottle, and David Stearns told us exactly who he was from the moves that he's made. And I believed him from the very beginning, and now everybody else is starting to believe him. The guy is a heck of a farm system developer. Maybe that's what he should stick to. Teams should hire him as the director of the farm system. But when it comes to fielding a big league club, he cannot do it in a big market, and he's proving it. This is not Milwaukee. You cannot spend minimally and win here. And that's what he's done since he's taken over. He did it in 2024 because if you look at the contract that Jose Iglesias got, Jose Quintana, Luis Severino, he brought in Sean Manaea, and he did it again in 25. He brought in Tyrone Taylor in 24, held on to him in 25. He doesn't believe in long-term contracts. Yeah, he paid Frankie Montas, only brought him in for 2 years. Look at that horrid bullpen. Look at some of the names that we had in the bullpen this season. Justin Hagenman, Max Kranick, Jose Castillo. He brought back Richard Lovelady, God only knows why. Huascar Brazaban, Reed Garrett, guys who, again, journeyman, reclamation projects. Didn't work out over there and over there and over there, so he brought him over here. If it worked out, great, because we got success without spending big money. If it doesn't work out, we can let him go, and it won't cost us much because we didn't spend big money. And then you look at teams like the Dodgers, who win because they spend money. Now, again, Cody Bellinger is still out there. Kyle Tucker is still out there. He could go to Japan. He's personally scouted Murakami. Isai is out there as a pitching prospect. But David Stearns, I don't know if this will find you, but you got to listen. In order to win, you got to spend money. Look around. The Dodgers just won 2 in a row. They're the favorite to repeat again because they spend the money. And because you're not spending the money, you're doing a disservice to every fan who's ever rooted for this team, every fan who's ever bought a ticket to Citi Field to see the boys play, every fan who's bought a hat, every fan who's bought a jersey, every little kid whose parents have instilled orange and blue and black on Fridays into their children. David Stearns, no matter what he does, if Pete Alonso walks, Pete Alonso staying will somewhat salvage this mess of a winter. But if Pete ends up going too, it doesn't matter what David Stearns does. He didn't have my vote of confidence to begin with, but the fans should revolt on the team. And furthermore, Steve Cohen, you're just as complicit in this malarkey as Stearns is because you have enabled Stearns to do this poor of a job and you have not intervened. Well, folks, this has been another Metropolitan Report. I don't think I have any more energy for today, and that's not good because we're nearing noon here. We're a few minutes away from 12 noon. And I've shouted and yelled and screamed, and I don't know how I'm going to make it through the rest of today. But I thank you all for watching. Please make sure to follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook, follow us on X. If you're watching this on YouTube and you have not subscribed already, make sure to go down below, hit that notification bell. You'll get notifications every time new content drops. And we'll be bringing you videos and clips and reels throughout the week. And if anything else major breaks, I'll be back here. But state of this organization this winter is horrid. And David Stearns is a fraud. He's a fraud who likes to play cute. Run prevention. Yeah, right. Well, folks, enjoy your days. I hope to hear from you in the comments. And if there's anything that I missed, just sound off below, and we'll chat. We'll chat real soon.